Hello everyone, Bill Parish here with GTT Audio, and welcome to the channel today. Well, today you see we've got a group of special guests. A couple of them you've seen here on the channel, and we have a new appearance today. Just as a refresher, sitting next to me we've got Dr. David Robinson, Editor-in-Chief of Positive Feedback. There in the middle we have Louis Desjardins, designer, owner, Kronos Audio. And down there on the end we have Maurice Jeffries of Positive Feedback. So welcome, fellas. I'm really glad that you were able to join me here at GTT Audio today.
Great to be here.
A great pleasure, a great pleasure.
Well, tell everyone while you were here, I asked these guys to come in and hear the Kronos discovery. And Louis came down to join. Louis, we did an install the day yesterday.
And that was a really nice one too.
Yes,
Really appreciated that.
that was a great install. Great people, great system. Thank you for joining, Louis.
Well, my pleasure, and it's really nice to see people smile.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's what it's all about, and that's all we've been doing today.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Maurice, why don't you kick it off?
Well, it was very interesting. I had heard about the discovery from Greg Weaver, from Bill, for months and months, and so the build-up from my perspective was really overwhelming. And then Bill was kind enough to extend the invitation and the invite for me to come and visit and spend the day listening to the turntable. I had never met Louis, but I do own one of Louis's lower end products, the
That's right, you've got
0.5.
the Sparta 0.5.
Which is a wonderful turntable at its price point, and a product that I've been extremely happy with since I reviewed it. I believe I reviewed it for Positive Feedback.
Yeah, and I believe that was about 3 years ago.
Was it 3? I thought it was 2, but it might have
maybe
been.
it was, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm old and long in the tooth, so forget what I said. But I was really excited to hear the discovery, in part because Greg had spoken so highly of it. But I will say this in all honesty. I came in with a bit of a bias filter, if only because I didn't believe that the turntable could actually sound as good as Greg said it did. And when I first looked at the beautiful device, and by the way, pictures and video coverage and visuals don't do justice to just how beautiful a product it is. So my hat's off to you, Louis, for designing a truly gorgeous statement piece. But the physical beauty is really overshadowed by the sonics of the turntable. It is probably the finest source component that I have ever heard. And from top to bottom is so coherent and natural and cohesive that I was left wordless through much of the afternoon as we played album after album. Jazz, classical, a little bit of pop. Did we do some Eric Clapton, or was that digital earlier?
That was actually digital when I had to
digital.
take a break from the turntable and do a demo. Yeah.
But it was an experience unlike any that I've had, and I think I'm a better listener and music fan for having experienced the turntable.
Wow.
Well, thank you. That's a very nice summary.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I had heard from Greg, who practiced being incoherent with me. He was so excited when he first heard it. He got in touch with me, and it was sort of hard at first to pick out what he was trying to say. Greg's a very articulate person, and he was saying variations of dude, you gotta hear this, nothing like it, incredible, changes the game, everything's different, pop. And of course, I've known Louis for a few years. I've known Bill for a long time, and I'd had the pro in for a while at Positive Feedback in my own listening room, so I knew it was his work was brilliant already. These days, most of what I review is by invitation. It's got to be either something that I've seen at a show, or I have somebody who says, I know you and you need to hear this. got to be a trusted friend or an associate. And Greg really, really, really says you gotta hear it. And so, and of course, Bill was talking about it in the highest of terms. And so that's what we did today, was we spent hours with the Discovery checking it out. Now I've had multiple turntables in my room. I've got 3 turntables around the place right now. And I've heard some really great ones over the years. I've heard some turntables were not so great over the years too. Mm-hmm. At shows, I go to shows mainly do 2 things. One is to meet with great friends, and the other is to scope out the best of the best. And so when I heard that Louis had come up with, the statement, but not just a statement product, because there are a lot of statement turntables out there, with something that had changed things, that there is a fundamental leap into a totally different domain for LP playback. Well, me and my thousands of albums immediately took notice. Sometimes it is hard to separate hype and marketing enthusiasm, let's call it, from the real thing, what you experience. That's why I only give my show awards to rooms at a show that really strike me personally, that draw me in. I only give my Brutus awards to products that have actually been in my listening room, which I know quite well. So this sort of thing intrigued me. I mean, I just had to, and so when I got the opportunity to come here and visit, see you, get a chance to sit down with Maurice, do our thing, it was not to be missed. And I got to be honest, in all my years, Positive Feedback's been publishing now for 32 years. In all my years in high-end audio, going back into the 80s, I've never quite had an experience anything like this at all.
Agreed.
Not anything at all. I'll try to develop that in a few minutes here because I don't want to hog the conversation, but what's most important to understand is this isn't an incremental improvement. This is not what we're used to, which is a new model equals, well, we've taken a further step. The Discovery is a movement into a realm that it does change everything. I heard LP performance that I've never heard anywhere. And I've got to be honest, I'm always honest with my impressions of those things. That if something is this fundamental, then it's extremely important. Extremely important because we who love the audio arts and love music, this is the kind of very rare, maybe once in a generation kind of thing that happens when you say, oh, this changes everything. Yeah. And so we may have a chance to develop that a little bit more, but that's my impression. I'm still gobsmacked by what I heard, and it's going to take me some time to sort through how do I express this without sounding like an idiot.
Well, we had this conversation over dinner, which is how do we express what we spent the afternoon hearing?
Right.
And for me, a couple of features and aspects of the turntable's performance just stood out. First, the sound that the system produced overall didn't sound like analog that we traditionally understand it. In traditional analog, there's always a little bit of wow and flutter that causes a pitch variation here, a little bit of noise, a little bit of clouding and coloring in some aspect or frequency range. There was none of that with this turntable. It was as absent from the signal chain as one could imagine. It was so noiseless.
Right.
The second thing that caught me, and I don't want to suggest because I haven't spent enough time with the device yet to make this determination, but its ability to render in pitch perfect terms, low frequency sounds, from tubas to kettle drums to cellos and acoustic stand-up bass with, let's say, a low end range of 35 hertz. Was that pitch perfect definition and pitch perfect accuracy and precision without any flab or overhang was really quite amazing. At one point, we were listening to Schulte conducting the Chicago Symphony Orchestra in Champaign-Urbana. This is the MoFi release, if I'm not mistaken. And the bass response is so tactile and expressive and powerful that the bass frequencies seemed to emanate from the concrete foundation of the listening room. Now, you do have the JL Fathom reference, the JL Audio Fathom reference subwoofers tuned in at, I think, like 25 or 24 hertz.
24, yeah, 24
So they're just
down,
adding a more ambient
space,
effect
yeah.
and a little bit of oomph to the bottom end. But that a turntable could produce low end with that degree of precision and power was, for me, something that I had never experienced before. It was
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you, Louis, what were you looking for? I mean, we have a discovery here, right? What were you looking for when you set out on this journey?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. You know, we're all, I think all of us in the audio community are looking for, you know, to go forward to getting closer to the music, to the performance, to the meaning of what a composition is, what the composer tried to express, and what the musicians added to this, the way they understood what was being trying to express, and how the recording engineers and the whole process tried to capture this in you know, in their time frame. You know, I mean, it evolved a little bit throughout the year, the philosophy of how you record music, and through all of that, we try to go back to the original intent of a group of people, and it's always about trying to find out, this is something I've said before, more gold at the bottom of the grooves, you know.
Right.
And so we want less distortion, a lower noise floor, you know, a more stable presentation, better pacing. I mean, and we all know this audiophile reviewer or audiophile vocabulary. This is something we're all accustomed to. But accidentally, in any journey, sometimes you get lucky, you know. And what was discovered, I mean, discovery comes from the fact that I felt something was discovered, was that there was way more than I ever imagined there could be in the grooves. And from an initial discovery, which was the exoskeleton chassis and what that brought to better resolution, and Bill had heard initially a prototype that
About
was
18 months ago. Yeah.
about 18 months ago, and that breakthrough then allowed me to open multiple other doors. And so, was I setting out to discover all of this when I started? The answer is no. I was just out to try to make something better with all that I had learned over the years doing Kronos and improving on the Kronos Pro, and trying to get, you know, things a little bit better. But then something big happened, and in the chassis, and then everything else was redesigned, and the chassis allowed me to find how I could make other things better. And this new thing brought me to the next thing, and so on and so forth. And we get to a point today where the leap that you guys are talking about, which becomes very hard to explain and understand, is there.
Right.
And really, the objective now for me is how can I communicate this to people, and how can I have as many audiophiles as possible experience this and enjoy it. That's really where I'm at today.
I think that's such an important concept to get across to everyone who will watch this video. This table isn't just for folks that can afford it. And admittedly, that's a very small percentage of the population of well-paid professionals. If you value the audio arts, this is a product that you need to hear for a couple of reasons. One, it's just so much damn fun to listen to. And I've heard so many really good sounding components that at the end of the day aren't fun to listen to. They don't generate that sense of excitement and enthusiasm and engagement with the music and the performers that this turntable does. Secondly, for me at least, this turntable recalibrates my understanding of what a really top-flight vinyl replay system can produce. Bill and I were earlier in the day listening to some digital files, and they were really good digital files. But there was a moment when he and I looked at each other and we're like, why are we in the smaller room listening to digital files when we should really be in the big room listening to superior vinyl playback, which really at the end of the day doesn't sound like vinyl that any of us have really experienced before. And that's what I can't get across, that words can't convey, that you really have to experience for yourself. Louis, I do have a question. You all were upstairs on the balcony taking a break and sipping sodas and enjoying cigars. And I had a $3.99 classic, $3.99 used piece of vinyl that I purchased in Chicago years ago on the Vox label. And those of you who know anything about Vox know that the pressings can be really good sometimes and they can be mediocre. This happened to be a really good pressing. I cleaned the LP before I got here, put it on the slab, queued it up, and I played the whole side of the LP knowing that my friends were upstairs having important conversations that I should have been part of, but I was having too much fun listening to music. So,
What's wrong with you?
Yes, guys, the vinyl was more important than you guys were.
Jeez.
Oh my!
But
Shame on you.
But there was something important that I discovered, to borrow on the discovery motif again. That high-end audio replay isn't just about listening to $100 reissued ultra high-quality discs that obviously sound fantastic and move us. A great system should have the ability to let the listener know that $3.99, that again $3.99 used LP that you really cherish is capable of musical magic as well. And for me, that was the real discovery, which is it no longer sounded like a slab of vinyl. There were musicians and vocalists in the room with me.
Well, this thing seems to get that gold out of any group
Absolutely,
that goes through.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Whether it's a dry aged, a 6-week dry aged T-bone, or a McDonald's hamburger in terms of pressing quality, this turntable exhumes all of the details in a musically natural way. And let me ask you this question. Did you expect the turntable to perform at this level with vinyl treasures that lots of us would overlook in our collections?
Well, yeah, actually, yes, because the Kronos Pro also has that ability. And I think the Sparta also has that ability. And at my house, I don't have like thousands and thousands of records, but I have about 2,500. And a lot of them are $2 classical records that I bought that are really nice records. Dutch Gramophone, Decca's, London, which was the North American name of
For Decca,
importation
yeah.
for Decca.
Argo.
Argo, etc., etc., and RCA Living Stereo original ones that I got at garage sales, and the bottom line is that some of these $2 records sound as good or better than some of the reissues that are $100 today or $50. And not to say that today's records aren't good, but just saying that a $2 record can completely, blow your mind.
Yeah.
And so that part of it, I wasn't that surprised about. I think that vinyl is probably the best storage and archival medium of music ever devised. And it doesn't decay as tape would, or it doesn't compress, when they make copies of it. If you have an original pressing or close to original that was done from the original mastering machine, and they make stampers, and those stampers were used, for maybe the first couple of prints of the record. Those records, the music is perfectly stored in this vinyl, and it can be unlocked, and so that part didn't really surprise me. But what surprised me is how much information and emotion was actually still there on tap after I've worked so long on the Pro trying to get everything out. To redesign something from scratch and to discover how much further we could go, that for sure was a big surprise.
And the turntable looks like a Pro on steroids, but it's a complete from the ground rethinking of that model, is it not?
Well, that's right. There's the discovery from that was the discovery from which the Discovery turntable took its name was in the exoskeleton chassis, and the way that parts are fitted together to help disperse vibrational energy or to help dissipate the energy coming back from speakers to stop that from getting to the tone arm and the platter and everything, and so that's the big technological point that brought that, and this is not present, of course, in the Kronos Pro.
Sure.
Additionally, every subsystem of the turntable, whether it's a suspension, whether it's the controller, whether it's the power supply, everything is being redesigned.
That controller is multiple times more accurate than what you had previously achieved in the Pro.
Well, that's right. In the Pro, we were happy with a certain level of wow and flutter speeds fluctuation that happens when you use a belt drive system with a suspended turntable. But with the new system now, we're achieving the accuracy of a direct drive turntable, but still with a suspension and belts, and using DC motors that are non-cogging. Now, all of this technical jargon is something we shouldn't really worry about, but the point is that we've achieved the kind of performance that, let's say, a direct drive techniques was reputed to give, which was very high level, but without the vibrational aspect that's part of having a direct drive turntable, and that's a new leaf turned, and it pays multiple dividends when you're listening to music, because the noise floor is brought to a point where we're not talking about a black background anymore, because black is still something.
There's no background at all.
That's it.
Yeah.
The thing that struck me was that, and I take all of Maurice's points, because you can become very analytical and you can make a list of the characteristics that impress you as you go over them in your mind. But for me, and I'm going to be honest and say that this is going to be a real writing challenge for me. Was that, and this is what sets this experience apart. The grooves dropped away. It's the first time I've listened to LP playback where there's no groove sound. There are no grooves. It cues up and you sit there and the music simply emanates. If you've got an album in good condition, it's been properly cleaned and maintained and so forth, I found for the first time that I was reaching through to the mic feed. I had never experienced that with vinyl before. Gotten close. I mean, there's some turntables that do a good job. Some a very good job. But this was the first time where I sat there and I thought, there aren't any grooves. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the microphone. It's like a mic feed.
No whoosh whoosh.
No, there's
stylus over
no,
the
it's
grooves,
just
none of that.
It's just there. And in my own philosophy of high-end audio and the audio arts over a lot of years now, for me, there are two reference levels that we are seeking. One is mic feeds and the other is master tapes. If we're dealing with something that was taped, then the master tape becomes the reference. If we're dealing, however, with something that involves recording like a directed disc, for example, or for that matter, even directed DSD, like a quad DSD original recording and so, but that's mic feeds. But here was the Discovery is a turntable that delivers mic feeds. And even though it's coming from tape, it sounds like mic feeds. It doesn't even sound in that sense like reel-to-reel tape. Something's happening that's actually reaching through grooves past the master tape to the microphones. And in my thought, the boundary between live music or performance or studio session and the realm that I call the audio arts is the microphone. That's the boundary. That's where a transformation takes place. And ideally, we want to be as close to that as we can be. Even if we're dealing with multi-track recordings where they're doing mixing and so on, we still want to be as close to the various elements of that creative work. I mean, those people who say live performance is best, nothing but live performance and everything, I say, well, you really don't like audio then. You should just buy concert tickets.
Yes, yes.
Buy a season ticket. Go there and be happy.
Which is a perfectly valid choice.
Sure it is, But when we're talking the audio arts, no, that's not valid, because we actually find that it's a new art form. Audio is a new art form. It's not a handmaiden to live music. It's its own art form. As a matter of fact, it would be as silly to say that live music is best and all audio is second rate as it would be to say only plays are real, film is no good.
Exactly.
I mean,
Or
film,
only paintings are valid, but photography is invalid.
Exactly. I mean, it's why people put together these hierarchies and seek to say, oh no, this is much better than that. Well, no, they're different. They're different. They're art forms. Any artist understands that there are all sorts of art forms in the world. Pursue the one that speaks to you. Don't try to denigrate somebody else's expressive efforts. Well, in the world of audio anyway, we have that boundary. Here comes the feed from those microphones. The Discovery is the first time I have sat in absolute astonishment and said to myself, there are no grooves. I'm hearing the mic. I can hear the mic on a I'm hearing through this. I'm hearing master tape reaching to mic.
So what you're saying is that to you it was like an abstraction of the medium.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would use the word abstraction. What I would say is, I think it is a revelation. It's a true revelation, and that's a word we should use very, very carefully. This is not an incremental improvement.
It's an exponential leap ahead.
It's a monumental improvement. It's actually created a new performance category in turntables. It's by itself.
Whoa. Well, there you heard it, fellas. Guys, thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your experiences and taking part of this.
The pleasure was all ours.
Well,
Yeah.
you guys are great friends. You guys are honest guys that tell it the way it is. You don't hold back one way or the other.
No.
And, you know, we've had so much fun listening. I don't know how many times things occurred in a recording today where we just started laughing. I mean, it was just pure fun, pure relaxation, and, you know, you guys are here because it's who you are.
And something that everyone should experience. I can't stress that.
Well, we are definitely, we do want people to hear it.
Absolutely.
For sure.
This is,
Well, if
Yeah.
I may, I mean, really, I want to thank you both for coming here, and I want to thank Bill because, you know, really, to be able to hear this thing that I've been working on for so long in such a competent system, and it's really, in a way, also so much fun for me too, because I get to renew my appreciation for the great luck that I've had discovering this thing, and I'm still astonished by it myself, and grateful. So I'm grateful to you, Bill, for setting this environment
Absolutely.
for it, and I'm grateful for you, David, for you know dedicating your life really to communicate and to try to guide people into this audio journey that we're all on.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you also, you know, for your enthusiasm and the fresh approach that you have about it. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Guys, if you like this, hit the like button. Please feel free to share it, subscribe, comment below, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
take care.